Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors.
Hello, this is J.V. Crum III, host of the Conscious Millionaire podcast, with a special announcement for business owners, entrepreneurs, and coaches. Do you want to create a big impact with your customers and turn it into big money? Then I created the High Performer Formula especially for you because it contains the exact steps you need to become a high performer. Now, these are the steps I've used to make over $30 million, and I'm pulling back the curtain to share the steps with you so that you can reach levels of financial and business success you may have only dreamed of before. Get your hands on the High Performer Formula today. It's my gift to you, so go ahead and download your own copy now. Just go to consciousmillionaire.com/high performer. Again, go to consciousmillionaire.com/high performer.
On the podcast with us today is John Stamper. He has been in the dental industry for around 15 years and has a company called CE Exchange that he started, which helps people in the dental industry with continuing education. Welcome to the podcast, John.
Thanks, Dan. I'm happy to be here. Excited.
Hi, John. Want to see if you can get us started with just kind of explaining exactly where your focus is right now as an entrepreneur so our audience can understand exactly what it is you do.
Sure, absolutely, Danae. So the best analogy that I can describe with my company right now is that I'm on the football field. I'm probably on maybe the 12-yard line, and it's like 3rd and 7. It's been about almost 4 years of putting the pieces together with the company and with the services that we offer. And we're very close to getting the ball over the goal line, I think, in regards to a lot of the services that we've provided, connecting. We've been working with customers. We've been servicing them with some of the offerings that we have. And we're finally at a point, I believe, where the ecosystem is about to connect. More and more people in the industry are learning about what we're doing. And that would probably be the best way to wrap it up as far as where I am right now.
I want you to start us off by talking about a tough decision that maybe didn't have that good of an outcome for you and some of the lessons that you learned through that tough decision.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got thinking about this, and I think the tough decision that did not have a good outcome ended up rolling into the tough decision that ended up having a good outcome. But I'll start, Dan, with the not so good outcome. And I think it goes back to the beginning of starting the company and the old adage of having that excitement to offer, at least in the software world, a platform where we could try to be as many things as possible to as many people. And I think one of the decisions that we made is on our original website, we had created a lot of different services that the dental professionals could take advantage of. We had a job portal, we had a CE tracking tool, we had social forums. And our whole thought process was that if we could get critical mass of people using the platform, that there would be value for them to use all of those other services. And I think that was a decision looking back that we would do over again. I think what we would have done is we would have identified just one of those services that we felt like we could get people using more frequently and start there and then expand from there. And I think we went all in. We built a lot of the different applications on the website. Cost a lot of money, like it does in a lot of those cases. And looking back, that's certainly one of the decisions that I think we would change.
And I think, just looking at that tough decision, a lot of times when we start a business, we don't have very many customers or clients. And one of the things that we think about is, well, I could do this and I can do that. And I have all these different things that I could do. Maybe I should just do all of them at the same time. And like you said, being too many things to all people, and you lose your focus on doing really good at one thing. And then you start to lose that focus. And I think that's what you're kind of trying to get at from that tough decision, right?
Absolutely. And I think what happened to us was that early on, we partnered with a dental board in the state of Kentucky. They wanted to utilize our CE tracking tool. And right off the bat, we had the likes of around 6,500 dentists and hygienists that were going to be members of the platform. And so what we thought, as you can imagine early on, we go to another state, another state, another state. And before you know it, within 4 to 6 months, we can have 25, 30,000 dental professionals using the platform. Then we thought we would have critical mass. They'd be able to use all those different tools. And as we learned, as it is with some of these larger customers in some of the states, that slowed very, very quickly. And therefore, we learned very fast that it was going to take much longer to grow that critical mass.
So, John, how did you come to recognize this need or this gap in the dental industry? Did you have a dental background? Was it just something where you thought you could develop the software to meet this need? How did that come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I spent the first 10 years of my dental career selling products to dental practices and in the manufacturer side. And so I got exposure to that. And then I left there. And for about 3 years, I actually worked as a dental coach and consultant, where I worked with dental practices all over the country, worked with the dentist, the hygienist, the office manager on team development, growth, things like that. And it was while I was working in the dental practice and identified just some small issues. I saw issues with them being able to find a substitute dental assistant if one called in sick. I worked with a couple of hygienists that had been audited by their state dental boards and didn't have their certificates, and they had lost them. I saw the need for dental practice in Kentucky to want to communicate maybe with one in California where they could share ideas. And so it really came to from being inside the dental practice and seeing some of the challenges that they had. And that's what inspired us to go ahead and build a platform online to be able to connect everybody.
Have you ever thought about jumping to a different profession? Because I know it's called CE Exchange, so it's kind of, in a general term. So is it possible that you've had thoughts, or when you first started the company, that you wanted to go to other professions instead of just dentistry, like maybe even into, massage therapy or chiropractic or, attorneys or, CPAs or anything like that?
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because we are, I guess the whole comment early in the podcast about where we are and close to the goal line is because we now have one of our platforms can service all of those industries, mostly in healthcare, Dan, so chiropractors and optometrists on the CE side. And we absolutely have the plans to go into those different verticals. And we changed the name. The original name of the company was the Dental Exchange. We had visions from the beginning to do the same type of service in those other industries. That was one of the decisions that we made, was to go to CE Exchange so that we could be a little bit more general in nature to do exactly what you talked about, which is service those other industries. It's been interesting because over the last couple of years, as I have shared this tool with family, friends, colleagues, investors, and maybe they be attorneys or anybody in those other industries, that is a typical comment that we hear is, man, it would be really cool to have a tracking tool for what we do. So again, what I've been trying to do, learning from our initial experience, is to make some traction in dental, get things moving there, and then certainly build the infrastructure to be able to move into those other verticals.
As I was asking you that question, I was actually thinking about your first tough decision of, staying focused and not going to too many different things. And so
exactly.
I was kind of, I was wondering how you're going to answer that, because I was thinking about that myself too. So let's shift to the tough decision that kind of, sparked from that had a really, really good outcome for you.
Yeah. So I think we'll go back to probably just about a year ago. That decision that all entrepreneurs in some form or fashion in the life cycle of their business have to decide, okay, we're going to pivot. So we spent the money to create a lot of these different applications on the website, but realizing that we needed to hyper focus on what we were going to do. And that's where we decided to really focus on the continuing education piece. And that started the process of slowly removing a lot of the different services on what was the original Dental Exchange site, just remove them off of there so that we could focus solely on continuing education. Most of the people, if not all of the people that were using the platform, were using it strictly for the continuing education tool. So that's where, after reaching out to a lot of those members, asking them what their needs were, we really felt like we could set ourselves apart in the industry to be able to help out with that. There's a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to that in the industry. And so made that decision to pivot. Right behind that was the decision to start a couple of podcasts where I was reaching out to a lot of these individuals in the industry and having them come on, share their stories. And that's where the decision came to focus pretty much on continuing education and then create this media arm, which has been a wonderful opening and intro to being able to meet a lot of people in the industry to let them know about what we're doing.
Well, another thing I like about your tough decisions is that I think you identified where your strengths were and where you were not doing so well. And instead of just sitting there and thinking about it over and over and over and wondering what's going on, you actually made a decision and said, yes, let's do this. Whether it be right or wrong at the time, you made the decision. And thankfully, with this tough decision that you just talked about now, as my wife and I know, it's hard to start a podcast. It's hard to do certain things, but, for us, it's been a lot of fun. We've enjoyed it quite a bit and tremendously. And, we're being able to help a lot of people through that. And I think that, with what you're doing with your podcast, you probably have found the same thing, but it's allowed you to be able to reach more people. And the thing that I like about it the most is that I can be asleep at night and people across the country and across the world can be listening and learning from it,
Absolutely. And I think the biggest takeaway, I've learned a ton. As you guys both know, when you get the opportunity to interview people and you've created and built this medium, but on the other side of it, on the other side of the microphone is that opportunity of all these people in the industry that I have brought on and talked to. And I'm taking sometimes pads of notes and then looking at my own business and saying, okay, what can I do to make things better? Or what can we do to service that part of the industry? So exactly, Dan, it's been a very rewarding experience.
That's pretty neat though, because I look at that and I go, you're in sales as far as, your industry right now. And so in order to reach people in your industry, you created a podcast so that it gives you an excuse to reach out to people, not sell them something, but invite them on to help them. And then at the same time, you create this network of friends that you can now sell to.
It's been great. And going back to what you said with yourself and Danae about making some of those tough decisions, I remember the day that we made the decision to shut off a couple of the functionality pieces of the website. It was not an easy day, especially when I had visions of looking back several years and the hours that was spent with developers going through and trying to make this part was right and this part was right. Not only the hours, but the dollars. And to actually make that decision. But as you guys know, in a lot of these cases as an entrepreneur, once you get down that path and you recognize that you have to, you really can't look back. You just have to make the decision, feel confident and trust in where you want to go and stick to it and deal with the consequences.
So John, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who makes tough decisions on a regular basis, what strategies or what approaches have you developed to help you make these difficult decisions?
Yeah, so I think it's a couple of things. I think about 6 months ago, I finally made the decision to hire a couple of coaches. It is something that I had wanted to do for a long time. I would have conversations with my wife, and bless her heart, she would get to the point where she's like, you know what, there are just some things I can't help you with. I can't answer. I feel bad. And then I started to feel bad that I would lean on her because she's gone through this journey with me. So I made the decision to hire a couple coaches, and they really have added a whole level of perspective for me to bounce ideas off of. That's the first thing. And then a little thing that I do is I really try to discipline myself to get up every day and make a list. Sit down, put the pen to paper, make a list of the things that I want to accomplish that day. And for whatever reason, that has allowed me to not be looking 4, 5, 6 weeks ahead or a couple days ahead, but what can I do today? What can I control today to make just maybe get 2 things done productive that'll move me ahead? And I think those are the 2 of the biggest things that I've done that have helped me along the way.
So kind of shifting a little bit, I want to go into what we call the trifecta, which is our series of questions that are kind of quick questions and answers about you as an entrepreneur and some of the things that has helped you. So first question I have for you is, what is your favorite technology that you've used in your business that has helped make your life easier?
So this is going to sound a little general, but I love the iPhone. I guess I love the ability to be able to communicate with people wherever I am, stay in touch with people. And certainly there's so many different tools now, whether it be a lot of the apps and things like that we can use to do that. And I have to say, it's kind of a general question, but it's just one of those things that helps me stay connected and continue to follow up with people.
Now, are you addicted to the iMessage portion of iPhone? Like when you try to text message somebody and it shows up green instead of blue, do you get frustrated because you don't get to see when they're typing back?
Yes, because green is different. And I'm using the blue. I don't know if it's the second part that I can't see them typing back. Because a lot of times, as you know, you put the message out there and then you wait. It's like, it's okay. Whenever they get back, they get back. But it's funny that you bring up the green because it does catch my eye. I'm like, wait a minute. Why is this green? It's not fair.
And it's funny because when it turns blue, you're like, oh, they're an iPhone person. Right. So you find this connection with them and you might not have ever talked to them before.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
When you're on your iPhone and
I know, it just doesn't bother me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because thinking back of starting the podcast, you guys may appreciate this. Everything was focused towards iTunes and all that. It took me a while to figure out that I needed to run the RSS feed over to Google Play for everybody that was on an Android device. I felt bad about that. I had started to work with somebody that said, I can't find your podcast on my Android. And I thought, well, why not? It's just go look it up on your phone. And I didn't think about that. So certainly something to look back at.
So what's your favorite quote that you've heard that has helped you as an entrepreneur?
I'm looking at it right now. It's on a whiteboard in my office. It says, if the path is easy, you are going down the wrong path.
I like that quote.
Yeah, that helps out a lot.
And what has been your favorite book that has helped you make better decisions as an entrepreneur?
So I would have to say that I'm going to lean on a more recent book, which is a couple of the Gary Vaynerchuk books, social media and immersing myself in social media, especially with the podcast and building a following and being able to leverage a lot of the social media tools out there. I've learned a lot from Gary and a couple of the books that he's written and tried to apply a lot of those principles in the business. And it's been very, very rewarding along those lines.
And so then what can you tell us, what is the next thing for you right now on your vision board or your dream board? What are you working on?
So I'm working on it really has to do with two projects, or really two big partnerships that I'm working on with a company. One is to integrate the software platform that we have that tracks the continuing education with a company that has the ability to text and or take a 2 or a 3 hour CE course and split it up in a little 15, 20-minute increments and provide a much quicker way for somebody to continuing education. So I'm very, very excited. That's the first thing that we're working on, is a partnership there. And then the second thing is working with a National Association of Dental Boards and working together with them to find a new, more efficient, easier way to sponsor providers in the industry when they're doing courses. One of the things that's changing a lot in dentistry, in medical in general, is that for years, a lot of the courses were clinically driven. And what a lot of people are figuring out, which is awesome, it's amazing it took this long, is that in order to run a successful dental practice, you need to have good people skills and you need to be a good businessman, or woman. And so finally, it's nice to see that there are a lot of people out there doing practice management courses, a lot of courses on working with people. And so I'm working with this national association to hopefully offer a new sponsored license that will make that process a heck of a lot easier for companies, speakers, and the like.
That's really neat, because I kind of think of it as being, maybe, small podcast size CEs that you can kind of listen to on the way to work or, on the way to the office or something like that, and still be able to have that tracked so you can count that as CEs.
Yeah. And I've actually been asked about that, Dan, but in light of focusing, that's one of my things that I have on my pad of paper that, man, that would be cool to do that. And I'm like, okay, stay focused, because you're right. I mean, where a lot of this could go, and that's been one of the biggest challenges, is just where do we pick and where do we focus, because the ecosystem there's so many opportunities.
Yeah. Well, John, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to be with us today on the podcast. How can the listeners reach out to you if they want to follow you a little bit more or contact you?
Yeah, so on all of the social media channels, John Stamper, and then on Twitter, it's JR Stamper 4. On Instagram, JR Stamp 4. Cell phone number, certainly fine with that. Area code 502-836-6535. And via email would be john13@jrs4.com. That's john13@jrs4.com.
And even if you don't have an iPhone, you can still call him.
Yes, because as Danae said, if it turns green, I'm going to stay disciplined and I'm going to respond back.
Well, thank you so much, John, for being with us today. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
All right, take care.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.